All right, West Michigan, let's talk about what's really going on in the market right now. If you've been tracking homes sold or mortgage rates, or especially watching some of the news stories out there, well, the reality is it could be hard to kind of figure out what the direction of the market is. And on top of it, when you look at the national direction of what's happening in the real estate market, it's a little different than what's happening here in West Michigan, and there's a couple of factors that ultimately get into that. So let's dive into some of the data, let's dive into the facts, and let's take a look at what's really happening in our marketplace here in West Michigan. So let's start talking about the big picture as we dive into this. When it comes to West Michigan, one of the things that makes us kind of anomaly when it comes to, at least compared to the southern states, is that we're still in a market that is appreciating. Where a lot of places like Austin, Texas, or a million different cities in Florida, or even so many of these other places in the Sun Belt might be seeing depreciation at different rates, we here in West Michigan are still moving forward. We've been looking at about a 3 to 5% appreciation rate, which, although it's about a third of what we were seeing 2 years ago, still puts us in a great place because we have that forward positive momentum here in our area. It's definitely not the crazy pandemic market anymore where there's multiple offers and there's all this kind of chaos around the homes, but we're certainly not in a decline and we're certainly not crashing at this stage. I would say at the moment, some of the biggest disconnect comes from sellers that might be clinging to the old market and buyers that might be dreaming that we're in the market of 2008, 2009 right now. But as we look at our home prices in general here in West Michigan, they're still holding strong. We're still seeing a vibrant, strong market moving forward. All right, now let's look at inventory. When it comes to the number of homes available, we've seen a slight bump in the numbers. And in real estate, we are kind of weird the way we measure inventory. We actually measure it in time, weeks, days, months, that type of thing. And the way it works in our area or in our industry is if the homes stopped coming onto the market, but we kept selling them at our same rate, how long would it take to sell all the homes we have? Well, right now, we're about a month and a half, a little under that, in our amount of available inventory. And this is actually up from our record low of about 3 weeks, maybe 2 years ago. So this is kind of an interesting one because in a lot of ways, it's much better, a much healthier market when we're not seeing the bidding wars and the rapid growth pushing prices beyond people's ability to buy based on their income. And right now, since we do have more inventory than we've had in the past 3 years, there's a big advantage for buyers when it comes to negotiating. Now, are people getting 20% off homes? No, of course not. However, what we are seeing is a lot of buyers are actually going out there and they are purchasing a home and negotiating oftentimes seller concessions to pay for their closing costs, or they're able to negotiate something off price, or even better, repairs when things are wrong with the house. One of the things that I really disliked when the market was at its feeding frenzy peak is that oftentimes people were waiving their home inspections in order to be more competitive in these multi-offer situations. This drives me nuts because there's so many things that can be hidden, from defects to needed repairs to real serious hazards if you're not getting a home inspection. It's not the market we're in today. However, that being said, we are still seeing bidding wars on the homes that are in the most desirable areas and typically on trend with the most desirable features and benefits. If your home is in some place a lot of people want to move and there's a lot of people looking at it, yeah, you could still end up in a bidding war. But the average today is usually one offer and a little bit of negotiation to get it to move forward. And that's really a good sign for the long-term health of our real estate market here in West Michigan. Next thing we want to look at here is days on market. We've seen a slight increase here in days on market. It's taking a little bit longer for some of our homes to sell. If we were back into the peak of the market, we were averaging around 25 days on market. We've pushed forward to around 35 days. Now again, in certain areas that face a very high demand, we're seeing a lot of homes sell between 7 and 11 days on the market. But if we take our entire average of our real estate market, and I'm talking about going from Rockford all the way down to Wayland, I'm talking about from Holland on the Lakeshore all the way out past Cascade and Ada, we're still looking at a little bit more days than we were a few months ago. Nothing crazy, whereas when I was in the real estate business back in 2009, we were averaging 180 days on market. So in comparison to that, no, the market is still in a very strong position, but compared to maybe 2 years ago, it's definitely softened a bit, and that's opened a lot of great buying opportunities for people who might have been priced out for either the cost of move-in or just where homes were. They might be back in your range at this stage today. Definitely worth taking a look. Okay, next thing that I want to talk about as we look at what's happening in the market is our interest rates. And you have to be living under a rock if you don't know that interest rates have already started to move up in comparison to the record lows we were seeing a few years ago. And I will tell you, this is a problem for certain people, and it's a problem for everyone because it increases the monthly cost as you start to look at where real estate is on a regular basis. But also, as I talk to some young people, they think, oh my gosh, these rates are so high, they're so ridiculous. By the way, as I make this video today, average rate in our area is about 6.5%. And while that's definitely up from some of the record lows of 3% and 2.85 and those different types of things, the reality is historically 6.5% is not a crazy rate. When I very first started into the business at the age of 21, and this was back in 2001, we had just experienced the terrorist attacks in New York on the World Trade Center, and one of the big responses at that stage from the government as economic times became a little more uncertain is they were dropping the rate. The rates were very similar to what we're looking at today, and what followed were some of the strongest real estate markets when it came to unit sales after that. Did that lead to a crash that ultimately started 2006, 2007 nationally? Certainly did. But that being said, the market was very strong for buying and selling before that crash, and it held very similar interest rates to today. So ultimately, when it comes down to it, could we have a boost by having a lower rate? Would it give a little momentum to the market? It absolutely would, but we're still holding fairly strong at 6.5%, and most experts are predicting that we will see a slow, steady drop in that rate over the next year or two. So the next question people ask me, hey Nick, is it a good time to sell? I mean, it sounds like it could be better for buyers with their ability to negotiate, but is it still an okay time to sell? Long story short, yes, it still is. And the reason why is because we still hold a strong buyer demand. Now, what's the difference? Are we not seeing the bidding wars? Yeah, that's true. However, we do still have enough people that if you're pricing your home right and with the market, that offers are absolutely coming in. So should you sell just to cash out? I don't know, probably not. But if you have a destination to go, if you have something in mind, if you have a reason or a motivation to sell, this can absolutely still be a very good time. If all we do is compare it to the peak of when demand was the highest, yeah, it's always going to look a little bit less. But in all reality, if we compare it to the average, there's still a lot of home sales happening on a regular basis. What's the difference today versus a few years ago? Condition matters again. If your home is not in tip-top condition, but you're looking to get top dollar out of it, you might have a rough go of it. However, if you're priced intelligently with the market, there's no question you can still get great offers on your home today in West Michigan. Last of the factors that I want to take a look at with you guys today is new construction. New construction is often a canary in the coal mine for what we're looking at in the residential resale market. And today, what we still see is new construction is going strong. Builders are still out there putting up new homes, often risking their money on spec homes because they believe the demand is high enough. Now, for small builders, I will tell you, it can be a little bit more of a challenging market versus some of our giants out here. But a lot of our building companies have continued forward in putting up the inventory that we so desperately have needed here in West Michigan. That being said, is it all sunshine and rainbows for the builders? No, they recognize that there is a slowdown, and so in order to help counter that, they've offered oftentimes a lot of discounts on the interest rates of the homes they're selling, and typically they're more open to working with a buyer as far as upgrades go than they have been in the past. So there's a little bit give and take here, but it's definitely not like 2007, 2009 when builders were fighting for their life to stay alive as the market completely evaporated and nobody was interested in that new construction inventory. Today, the story is very different. I live in Caledonia, and there are 4 active subdivisions all within 3 miles of my home as it stands now. And it just tells you how big that appetite is for new construction in our marketplace. And that is a good, healthy sign of a strong market as we continue to move forward. Ultimately, what are we really saying here? Is this a market that makes sense for buyers and sellers? It is. It's still a great market here in West Michigan. We still have more people coming to the area than we have the supply of housing to cover them, and therefore we're still seeing good years as far as home appreciation goes. Obviously, the other part, people are definitely discovering the beauty of West Michigan. Its natural beauty, along with all the great places to eat and to have fun, and how great a downtown we have. So as long as people keep figuring that out and coming here, the truth is we will have a hard time equalizing supply and demand, and that means prices will continue to rise. Although a little bit more slowly than they were in the past, we're still on a very strong trajectory here in West Michigan. If you got value from this video, help me by liking and subscribing so I can get the message out to more and more people. And if you have any thoughts about what's happening here in the market, I would love to hear them down in the comments, or feel free to send me a direct message. If you've also been thinking about a new home, reach out to me. My information is in the comments below.